In this video, we're going to be discussing banking frameworks. What are the structures and what are the systems we can put in place so we never go broke again? We're running our agency as lean and as profitably as we can. The importance of adding systems and putting them in place before we even get going is because we want to prevent problems from even happening. One of the most common problems that most agencies and even business owners have is cash flow problems, and this can lead to a crazy amount of stress for founders. You will encounter stuff like many people not having enough money to pay their tax bill. They're not want to know how much they should pay themselves, or they're just really unclear on how much it's even costing them to run their business and know what their outgoings are. And what's interesting is that the root cause of these problems isn't normally how much money people are making. It's caused by lack of financial structures. The frameworks I'm about to share with you were just a complete game changer for me because I made a massive mistake when I first started the agency. Any money that came in, and this was my first time, really upping the amount of cash I was making. Any money that came in, I had a real scarce mindset. I wanted to keep it. I wouldn't even pay myself because I wanted to know that the business was doing good. And I thought the correct thing was to keep all of the money in this one pot and put it all towards growing the business. But what I was actually doing, I was stopping the business from growing because I was stopping the business from paying me. I certainly wasn't thinking about hiring any staff, and ultimately, I wasn't benefiting from me swapping this 9 to 5 for a 7 to 11 p.m. I was just a slave, and I wasn't even paying myself. And this is exactly why you need a financial structure so you don't have this problem, because with the correct systems in place, you're not going to feel guilty for paying yourself because you know you've got a certain amount of percent which you're supposed to be paying yourself. And it's important that you do, because if you don't, then you're just kidding yourself thinking that your business is successful and can operate, because all successful businesses, you need staff. And obviously you have to pay them, and you are probably your first and only staff member at this point. So if we can follow a structure, you're not going to feel guilty for paying yourself, and you're not going to feel like you're putting your business at risk because everything's laid out prior. The framework that I've kind of made my own variation of is from a book called Profit First. Great book, highly would recommend reading it. That book pretty much concludes that if you don't pay yourself first, you're always going to find a reason to spend whatever is left. It is human nature to use everything on the plate in front of us. It's got a funny story in there about fat camp, what a really old school one that they used to do in the States. And it says before they'd even consider putting their clients on a diet, the first thing that they would do is shrink the plate. Because psychologically, they know that they're going to eat it if the plate is 10 times the amount of food or one size the amount of food. And it's just such a better way of easing yourself into it. And this is the same with money. If you allow yourself to spend 90% of your income, you're probably going to spend 90% of your income. So we want to shrink it. So to successfully implement this profit first framework into your business banking, we're going to need to create 3 bank accounts from the get-go. So the first account is the corporation tax account. Yes, unfortunately, we do have to pay the government in the UK. So we're going to put 15% of all of the money straight away into this account. The second account is the operations account. This is the account that you're going to be running the business from. We are going to need 55% of all of the cash collected goes into running the business. If your business is slick and your operating models are correctly, you should be able to run it over just half of the money that you're making. And then finally, 30% is going to be going into owner's compensation. That's where we can get paid, and that's where we can do the fun stuff without feeling guilty. So diving deeper into the corporation tax account, like I said, we're going to be putting 15% of all revenue into this account. It's got to be the first thing. Yes, I know nobody likes paying the government, but in the UK, we got to do it. If the business is making £50,000 of profit or less, which is probably going to be where we start off as, because even running a marketing agency, which is quite cash flow positive, there are going to be expenses. You're supposed to pay 19% corporation tax. Now, the reason I tell you to do 15% is because you pay tax not on the total amount of money that the business makes, but it's on the profit that's left. And obviously, we're going to have expenses. So if you put aside 15%, you're probably going to find when it comes to paying tax, you're kind of happy because 15% is going to probably pretty comfortably cover the amount that you're going to have to pay and probably leave you some extra. So for me, because I adapt this framework, when I've got time to pay tax, I'm happy because I know I'm going to be left probably with a couple of thousand left after because I've overshot the mark, and I just put that money straight into the owner's compensation pot. In regards to the operations account, this is the account that all of your business expenses are going to come out of. This is going to be your subscriptions, your ad spend, anything which is to do with the day-to-day running out of the business. comes from this account. That money you should not be afraid to use and invest into the company, because that's what it's for. If you want to grow your business, you are going to have to significantly invest in it. And this framework knows that you should be happy to spend 55% for the money into making it bigger. A healthy business at the end of the day, you should be able to operate on 55% easily, and you should be in profit by doing so, especially in marketing, just because the nature of how you get paid is upfront. It's not like you're a builder where you get paid in 60 days. People in the marketing, it is normal for you to get paid up front. And if you're struggling to run the business on 55%, then you need to review your operating model and probably reduce your outgoings, but you should never need to increase this. And lastly, of course, we've got the owner's compensation account. This is the money you earn as the big boss, and this is your guilt-free pay to use exactly how you choose. And I think it's super important that you do pay yourself 30%, because real businesses, they have to pay their employees, and you're going to be the most important employee, especially in those early days, and you need to be rewarded by it. If you choose to not pay yourself in the way that I thought was the correct way of doing this, it's only just going to hide your deeper financial issues. Because if we had to replace you and get someone else to run the business, guess what? You would absolutely have to pay them. So you would just think that the business is profitable, and that actually isn't. And the reason it's profitable because you can't afford to pay the staff, which means you don't really have a proper business. So this account is also there to cover entertaining, right? All these other great areas of expenses, such as client dinners, or let's say if your laptop broke. Yeah, because these are actually attributed to running the business as well. Now, unfortunately, the money that's in the owner's compensation account, that is still one of your business accounts. Where things get a bit complicated are when we talk about taking money from the business account and putting it into our personal account. Because whenever you're paying yourself from the business, you need to be keeping that as minimal as possible. When I say owner's compensation is 30%, I do not mean you should transfer yourself 30% of the business's revenue in to your personal bank account. And that's because of the tax reason. So explaining these a little bit deeper, any amount that you take around the £1,040 mark per month, so just short of 12.5k a year, that can be treated as a salary. At this level, you're going to pay little to pretty much no income tax, but you're going to owe around £100 of that in national insurance each month. So the way I think about it, if I pay myself £1,000, my business is going to have to pay the government £100 in order for me to take that money out. But the good news is, because this is a salary, it is classed as a business expense, which is going to reduce your corporation tax bill. Because remember, the corp tax is paid off the profit, not the revenue. So although you are having to pay £100 to take out £1,000 from your business, it's pretty likely, if you follow this framework, that you're going to have higher expenses. So you're not necessarily going to see that £100, if that makes sense. So it's probably going to work out like you don't even have to pay it, but just put it aside just in case. Now, I know what you're thinking. If we can only kind of pay ourselves 12.5 grand, you're thinking, who the hell can live off that? So most directors pay themselves around 50k a year, but this is how it's split up. We've got the just short of 12.5 grand as our salary, director salary, which is the tax-free one. And then to bump this up to around the 50k mark, you are allowed to pay yourself around £37,000 worth of dividends. Dividends is money that you withdraw from the company as a lump sum. So if you're not going to be going above this 50k mark, the amount of tax that you'll have to pay on the dividends that you withdraw from the business is going to be just short of 9%. Which, yes, I know what you're thinking. You've already paid money on a tax on this money. Why am I paying more? It's just the UK laws. They kind of suck. So let's pretend you wanted to withdraw the maximum, which is 37,000, times in that by just short of 9%. You got to be willing to lose almost 3.3k of that in dividend tax. And this dividend tax, it doesn't get to come off your corporation tax bill. You personally have to pay this. So let's pretend that you wanted to withdraw 37.5k from the business. You need to have your own personal tax account, self-assessment, me, not the business, and you need to put 3.3k of that 37k that you would just withdrew into that tax account. So the amount that you would actually be able to spend, and that's for you, is going to be just over 34,000. So overall, if you wanted to pay yourself a 50k a year salary, even though it's not a salary because part of it is dividends from the business, you actually get to keep almost 47,000 after tax, which, yeah, again, I know it sucks, but this is the most cost efficient way of doing that if you're in a boat where you can take that amount from the business. Because we're set up now as a proper company, we want to maximize our expenses and definitely be not afraid to invest in things which you think are going to help the business grow, because you're going to pay tax not on the amount of money that the business is bringing in, but on your profit, and your expenses that are legitimate business expenses, they come off your profit. So you can kind of look at it as you're getting a 20% discount of things which you might want anyway. So maximize business expenses whenever possible. This includes your technology, getting like a good laptop because you're going to be spending your life on that. Your client entertainment, if you want to take some of your clients out, or if you need to go to the coffee shop to meet people, get it. Don't buy it personally, buy it from the business, and your travel expenses as well, especially if you're doing any type of personal branding or short form content. If you work from home, you can claim a portion, not all of it, of your home office as a business expense, and also your phone bill as well. And just run all legitimate costs through the business because it's going to reduce your tax bill. Don't try and avoid paying for anything personally that could be paid from the business. But like I said, this isn't necessarily financial advice. I'm not an accountant. You should definitely get an accountant and consult with them. This is just a framework that I personally use as a disclaimer. So for the high achievers, this may apply to you in year 1. But for a lot of you, this will be a problem that you'll be faced with coming into year 2 or year 3. Or if as long as you keep sticking at it, this is a good problem to have. Let's start talking about the VAT threshold. So when your annual revenues, the amount of money that the business is making this year, not profit, revenue, the amount of money that it actually brings in is above 90,000, you have to register for VAT. VAT pretty much means you're going to have to add 20% VAT onto all of your prices. So if I was charging £1,000 a month normally, and I did over 90,000, I would now have to charge clients £1,000 plus VAT, which pretty much means my clients would have to pay me 1.2k. And when I had this first introduced, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the worst things. Nobody's gonna lose all my clients now because no one's gonna want to pay me 20% more when they could just work with a business that isn't VAT registered, essentially giving them a $20% discount. And trust me, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because the better businesses, the guys that have got the money to actually work with you, if you're VAT registered, it makes your business look a lot more credible and it makes you look established. Those clients feel at ease that, okay, this guy must do what he says on the tin because he's having to charge me VAT because this guy's making a good amount of money. So for me, I actually found it made it easier for me to sign clients. I was obviously using this as an angle to throw shade on all of the other marketing agencies that weren't VAT registered. So it definitely can help you. And VAT registered clients, they don't care about paying VAT because, let's be the same for you, you can reclaim the VAT on anything that is chargeable. So like, let's pretend I booked a hotel and the hotel had 20% VAT included in the price. Because I'm VAT registered, I get that VAT taken off the VAT that I've put aside to pay the government, So you can reclaim VAT on most business expenses. This is going to include your software, technology, your equipment, your travel. So if you were going to buy the latest iPhone and it was £1,000, really it's costing you £800 because you get to claim the VAT back. So once you've become VAT registered, I would highly recommend you introduce another business account. So you're going to have 4 accounts in total. So when the money comes in, 15% is going straight away in the VAT pot. Now, we know VAT is 20%, but like I said, you are, of course, going to have expenses which have VAT added to them. So again, you might view paying the VAT as a good thing because you're probably going to overshoot it if you copy this framework, which means that money can go into your owner's compensation in the same way it does for the corp tax. Your corp tax can stay at 15%, but that extra 5% that we're saving from the 20% VAT that we should be putting aside, but we're only putting aside 15%, I want you to put that into your operations account. Because if we're growing the business and we're making more money and we've got past that back threshold, keep the momentum going. Put it into the operations account instead of going to you, because I want you to not be afraid to spend that money so you can use it into hiring staff and everything. And when you're hiring staff, obviously, yeah, your operating costs will probably increase quite a lot. So we want to deploy that there. And your owner's compensation at 30% is going to stay the same because you make more money. 30% is going to go up as well. So you are rewarding yourself still. In terms of what business bank account I would recommend, I personally use Tide, and I don't have an affiliation with Tide. This is just my personal experience and recommendation. I like them because they're just really easy. You can set up an account in the same day, and the main benefit I think you get from Tide is you don't have to set up like 4 business accounts where you got to do all this paperwork and you got to have a specific card for a specific account. You can just set up like different pots. So I have a pot which is the VAT pot, a pot which is the corp tax pot, a pot which is the operations, and my one. So it's just really easy to keep them separate. Tide also offer a business saving account, which I choose to use as my owner's compensation account. So that business saver account, you're getting around 3% of variable interest a year. So for example, if I had 50k saved up in that owner's compensation account or in the business saver account, over the year, I would earn £125 a month, because that would total up to that 3% of 50 grand over the year. So it's free cash. Granted, it's not loads, but nothing is loads unless you're proper investing it. So yeah, that's just a way of just getting a little bit more cash out of money, which you're just going to be having sitting there anyway. So don't proceed past this video until you've created your business bank accounts. If you click this link here, you can open a business bank account with Tide. If you find it confusing, I think their site is really easy. It's a step-by-step guide. You know, we've got you. We've made our own step-by-step guide, which highlights exactly what to do, and you can just click here to download that as a PDF. Hope you enjoyed the video. Implementing those structures into your business straight away, trust me, is going to make sure there's loads of fires that don't even get to start. Thanks, and looking forward to the next one.